Hey folks, it's Digger Does, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to go kind of take a step back and cover some basics that I think are very important to any martial art, not just Bantay Camay in general. In fact, some styles take stance training to such an extreme that some styles even have forms just for stances. There's no hand techniques at all in the form. Choi Li Fu Kung Fu has one. I think it's called the Five Wheel Horse Set, something like that. But it's all stances, no hand techniques at all. But today we're just going to cover the stances. We're not going to do any hand training at all. So the first stance we're going to cover is the one I've covered in many of the videos I've done on Bantay Camay and our knees, which is the natural stance. We start with feet together, and we're going to step out shoulder width with our hand by our side. This is a natural stance. Most fights will occur in this stance. They will start from here. And that's the one we're going to start with because it's one of the most simplest and two the most important because, again, it's the beginning of a fight. The next one we're going to cover is what we call there's several names for it. In Taekwondo, it's called a bow and arrow stance. It's the same thing in karate. And in rebel karate, it's called a front stance. In Bantay Camay, it's called a fighting stance. And basically, you're going to turn left foot in front, right foot in back. You're going to be about past shoulder width, maybe one step past shoulder width. Right foot, your toes will be pointed toward the wall. Left foot, which is in front, your toes are going to be pointed toward your opponent. Like if you had someone standing in front of you, your toes are going to be pointed toward them. Your chest is squared to the wall. Your hands will be up around your face. Your elbows will be tucked into your ribs. That's to protect your ribs. This is a fighting stance. This is the one that we will do most of our forms and our fighting from. And another thing is to see how my side is closed off. There's no target available to my opponent. This is why we do this stance. We do not offer our opponent any target. Now, another basic stance found in all martial arts is the horse stance. And it's almost like the natural stance, except you are one shoulder, your shoulder past shoulder width. I'm sorry, I got tongue tied there. So you're going to start with a natural stance and then just step out a little further, almost like you're sitting in a chair. Your knees are slightly bent, chest is squared, your hips and your back are in line with each other. Your back is totally straight. Weight is distributed evenly among your legs, 50-50. This is one of the most basic and rudimentary stances found in all martial arts. Now the next one is what we in Bantay Camay and rebel karate call a concealed combat stance. And it's just a natural stance, but your hands are over your chest with your left hand on top. Now, if you're right-handed, if you're left-hander, if you're a southpaw, your right hand will be on top. And the reason why we do this stance is mainly if we're being confronted by someone, and we don't want them knowing what we're going to do, this is to them it'll look like, oh, he's chilled, he's relaxed, he's non-threatening. But let's say our opponent throws a punch. I can quickly block that punch and then deliver my own attack. Or I can throw my own attack before he can even throw his. See? And it's the same as the natural stance, weight evenly distributed, 50-50, chest straight to the opponent. The only difference is our hands are almost like we're giving ourselves a hug. Right hand on top, flat. See how my hand is flat over my elbow. It's not bunched up or anything like that in a fist, because again, you want to appear non-threatening. Now the next stance is what we call a back stance, and it's pretty much like our fighting stance, except the weight is going to be distributed differently. In the front stance, or the fighting stance, our weight is 70-30. 70 on the front, 30 in the back. But in a back stance, our weight is more 70-30 the opposite way. 70% on the back leg, 30% on the front leg. And our front leg is straight. There's no bend in it. There's a lot of bend in the rear leg. So you can do these as wide and deep as you want, or shallow and narrow. With my disability, I prefer my stances to be a lot smaller. This here's a little bit too wide for me. It makes me feel off balance, so I'm going to make it a little smaller. That way, I'm more balanced. This feels more appropriate to me. Now, the next one is what we call a T stance. And a T stance is more of a defensive stance than an offensive stance. From a neutral stance, we're going to slide our front foot to our back leg. So the right foot, toes are pointed toward the wall. Our left foot, toes are pointed toward the opponent. Weight is evenly distributed, 50-50, but we're almost standing with feet together. And our feet are shaped in the form of a T. Let me back up a little bit, see if you can see it in the camera. I don't know if you can or not, but that's basically what a T stance looks like. Now, you can perform the T stance combined with the combat stance. Then it becomes what we call a concealed combat, or concealed combat T stance. And normally this is used to throw a kick, throw a knee, just to get the opponent back, to get him off of us. And at the same time, we have our hands here in front of us, throw a guard or a punch and a kick at the same time. That's the concealed T stance and the T stance. The next stance is what we call a cat stance. It is basically a natural stance, but most of the weight is going to be on the back leg. You're basically on your right leg, or the left leg, which is the front. You're standing on your tiptoe, kind of like a cat does. If you watch how a cat walks, they put their toes down first, then their heel. So that's how we're standing, with our toes. We're standing on our tiptoe. And again, this could be a defensive posture. It could be thrown from, or it could be done in natural stance or fighting stance. But it can be used to employ a quick front kick to get your opponent off of you, a knee or whatever. Now, the last stance that I want to cover is mainly found in our knees. I rarely see it in other arts, but it's called an oblique stance. And the oblique stance is mainly a fighting stance that's done opposed to you facing your opponent. So let's say I'm going to do a right oblique stance. So I'm going to turn my hips to the left. That way my right hip is pointed toward my opponent. I'm in a bow and arrow stance or fighting stance. Weight on the front leg is 70. Weight on the back leg is 30. Or 60-40. I don't remember exactly which one it is, but this leg straight. Your rear leg straight. And it's like you're throwing a block. Let's say I have my stick and I have an opponent throwing a number 5 to my stomach, and I just drop and turn. Because again, I don't want to provide him with a target. I want to avoid that attack. So I'm shifting my hips away from him. Right now, see how in the natural stance, both hips are pointed toward him. When I perform the oblique stance, I'm just turning my hips away from him. Yes, my right hip is still pointed. I'm using my stick to show that my right hip is pointed toward my opponent. But yet, the lower half of my body is facing away from him. Okay? That's the oblique stance. These are the main stances found within Bantay Camay as well as other martial arts. And doing this type of training, like the forms I've showed, you can do just the stances found in the form with no hands, just your feet. It's really a very good workout. I mean, right now my legs are shaking from doing this because I'm not used to doing this every day like I normally was back in the day. So I'm just like you, I got to get back into doing this as well. And if you really want a good leg workout, this will definitely do it because my legs are really shaking. Back in the day when I was studying Taekwondo and Kung Fu, some of our teachers would actually have us hold these stances for quite a while. Like when I was under D.W. Kong in Taekwondo, he would have us hold that horse stance forever and ever and ever. And sometimes it would be to the point where we would just fall over because we couldn't walk after performing horse stance for 30 minutes to an hour. And that was tough training. And you really feel it, like right now I feel it mainly in my butt and my quads. That's where I'm really feeling it the most because I'm having to utilize all the muscles in my legs just to hold myself up. And that's a lot of tension in those legs. And after a while, you'll develop some really, really strong legs, and you can hold these for quite a while. I hope that you put these to good use. I thank you all for joining me again. And as always, please like, comment, and please come subscribe to my channel. I always say the more the merrier, and I mean that. Because as this channel grows, we can do a lot more and do a lot more. And so, as always, folks, do good and deuces. Bye-bye.